Welcome, ladies and gentlemen and children of all ages, to the Bijou Barflies.
That's right, the show where two highly opinionated guys discuss, argue, and celebrate classic cinema.
That's right. And who are those guys? I want to introduce my buddy. He's an author, a playwright, a lyricist, and quite an actor, Scott Ratner. Hi,
Thank
Scotty.
you. Hi.
How you doing?
And I want to. I'm doing great. I want to introduce my pal. Wow. What do I say about you? You are.
I don't know.
You're also an author, actor. What are some of those? Comedian. Many other things.
Playwright.
Lyricist.
Composer.
Composer.
Debbie Reynolds, acolyte.
Debbie Reynolds acolyte. Absolutely. I should have mentioned that first.
That actually
really
is
is.
my,
That
my
is
most impressive credit.
It's the only thing you put on your card. So,
which is really confusing when we sit down to play gin.
Yeah,
but
it's
anyway, we are here to share with you our crazy opinions and our wonderfully disparate views on things, and we
Yeah.
hope that you get a rise out of it. And eventually, if this catches on, we're going to invite you in to, join the discussion.
yeah.
Ask questions.
In fact, you can call in now. It
Right.
won't do any good.
Right,
because
exactly.
We don't have we don't even have. We got to get like a Facebook thing and
Yeah,
and
then-
all those, and we'll figure that out.
yeah.
But I want to point out that we know a fair amount about old movies.
yeah.
I don't think either one of us know much about podcasts. I don't.
No, I certainly don't.
And so we're going to learn.
Yeah.
And you guys are going to tell us.
That's right. And you'll tell us if you want to hear certain things or write in on things you want us to discuss.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or whatever. So, Scott, tell us about the format. Our first show is going to be a little different. And
yes.
it's by way of introduction.
Little. And it's by way of little, can I throw something out here first?
Sure, go ahead.
First of all, I want to
The
give
waste can is over there.
shout out
Oh, no.
to my, yes.
I'm the one wearing it. My earphone
Yeah,
ears.
sorry about that.
That's all right. It's
I want to
okay.
give a shout out to my friend Lauren Skersley, who suggested we do this podcast about 5 years ago.
He should mind his own business.
I know he should.
I mean...
but the gentleman is a true mensch.
Aw,
and he's a
nice
really
of you
good...
to mention it.
I should have mentioned it. He is
Yeah.
a really good guy. And
Thank you, Lawrence.
Thank you, Lawrence. He wrote this on he saw our little Facebook bantering, and he said, you guys should really have a podcast. And I didn't know anything about podcasts. And of course, in the 5 years since, I've learned nothing about podcasts.
Absolutely.
But
There's
we're
nothing
doing
like-
it, Lawrence.
Nothing like progress.
We're doing it. We're
Yes,
doing it.
Lawrence, look at us.
And one thing I think also we should mention before we start is we should try to define classic cinema, which is almost impossible.
Okay,
But
I mean,
for
I
our
have
purposes.
I have my opinion
Okay,
on that,
yeah.
and I've written about it on Facebook. But
Okay.
I think people make the mistake of calling anything old or anything before 1970 or even 80 a classic. Now there were thousands of films made, from that point all the way back to the mid 1890s, and I would say maybe 20% of that you could actually call classic films.
Right.
That's the way I feel about it. Just because it's old, it doesn't mean it's classic or even good, for that matter.
However, I agree with that. But I think when we talk about classic cinema, I think probably we are talking about a historically what they call circumscribed. Mm-hmm. Not circumcised, but circumscribed.
Right.
Era. Because when we talk
We're not
about
talking about the editors
we're
now.
not talking, really aren't talking, because we're going to be talking about films that are great, but we're also going to probably be talking about films that aren't great.
Well, to be honest with you, my favorite films are B films.
Right.
And mostly pre-code. Mostly from 1928 to 1934.
Right.
That's my real comfortable area.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that I don't appreciate movies today, if they're good.
Right.
Or movies, way back when.
But I think we're going to have an emphasis
Yeah.
on a certain era, which will be Golden Age, what's called...
What you would call the Golden
Golden
Age.
Age.
Probably pre-48, pre-50.
Well, I would say there's always
Yeah.
difficulty with that. I always say that defining a genre is like marking the outline of a cloud. I mean, it's really almost impossible. It's kind of amorphous. I think we can fairly say that the golden age of Hollywood began to end around 48
Yeah.
with the antitrust laws.
The
and
end of the studio system.
the end of the studio system, and then how long it continues beyond that, different people give different dates. I don't think it would be even wise of us to
To limit ourselves.
To limit it, but at the same time, I think you'll find that we'll be talking more about the 30s and 40s
Yes.
than we will about the 50s.
Even
and
though...
more about the 50s than we will about the 60s, and probably from that point on, it will just be an occasional odd reference to a 70s film or a film beyond
And
that.
don't get me wrong, I think there are plenty of films, especially in the 1970s, that can be termed classic.
Oh, I agree.
You know,
I agree.
And right up to today. I mean, there's some movies. Well, you know, not maybe in the last couple of years, but that I would consider classic. You know,
I personally don't see enough of them, but I know
that's
when
my
I do,
problem. My problem is I haven't seen
when
enough
I
of
do
them.
see a contemporary film, I generally enjoy them very much. So I think there are a lot of great films, but they're a different kind of film.
Yeah, definitely.
That's the thing, is I think you can find in the 30s and the 40s and through the mid 50s maybe, you can find certain characteristics that are consistent.
Yes, definitely.
And so because of that, and certain players that are the same players, so I think there is a big difference. There's a qualitative difference, but not in the sense of a necessarily a higher quality or lower quality.
Absolutely.
But I think we're going to be talking about that because those are the movies we watch.
Right. Well, those are the movies we're most comfortable with.
Absolutely.
Let's put it that way.
That's our family.
Right, exactly. And you know, it's I don't want to get maudlin, but when you're growing up in as maybe not an exactly happy child, these people they become your family. And when we grew up, there were like, 7 channels, 8 channels on the television? So we were exposed automatically to these films.
Right.
And grew to love them.
I should say I had a pretty happy childhood, but I don't know why I avoided my family to watch these movies.
Well, I've met your family, and I understand completely.
Why I wouldn't know. I've got a great family.
You do have a great family.
I got a great family. But the fact is, late night, and that's where we got a lot of our classic cinema education, I would say.
Well,
a fair amount.
Some of it. I really can't say that, really. Because I grew up in New York. And
The $1 Million Movie.
Well, not just the $1 Million Movie. It was a bastion of great films every single day. Some in the middle of the day, some at night, some prime time in the evening. I remember seeing Adventures of Robin Hood for the first time, 8 o'clock at night. You know, watching it with the entire family. It was just fantastic.
In L.A., we didn't have as much of that. We had late night Movies Till Dawn was my favorite KTLA because it showed the Paramount and Universal largely.
Yeah.
And we had the revival houses, which was another thing that we've lost.
Yeah. Well, they've been dropping off.
But so it was a different kind of thing, and I sometimes think about that as that we have a whole different world of the way people are exposed to classic cinema, and now it's kind of I don't know if the word's ghettoized, but it's put in Turner Classic Movies and a couple of other places, which is great if you're looking for those films,
right?
And if you're looking for films now, it's a seeker's market because you have the internet, you can find individual films, but your chances of just landing upon them and just having them slowly becoming acclimated to them,
becoming part of your DNA, basically.
Exactly, is much less likely, and that's, I think, a sad thing.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. Well, I was discussing with Michael Schlesinger today.
Never heard of him.
He's the most famous guy I've never heard of.
Yeah, exactly.
But we were chatting on Facebook, doing back and forth, and I told him, I said, the kids are looking at their phones and not caring about what happened yesterday. So we are. I hate to say this, and I don't mean this to bring everyone down, but we are kind of a dying breed. We are part of a dying breed. Old movies, classic films, black and white films, silent films, they're going to be eventually shuttled away where like classical music is now or Shakespearean drama is now, a niche, a specialty. Right.
And it's already approaching that.
Yes.
And it's not to say that the other stuff that people are looking at instead is not fascinating stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But
we're always qualifying everything.
Yeah, no, I mean,
I don't want to say it's bad.
I don't want to say it's bad. No, it's not our stuff. But
Yeah.
the thing is, there's so many wonderful old movies that people don't watch, and I think it's because they look at that black and white image, and it's immediately a turnoff.
Well, I read an article about it, and this was years ago, and it mentioned that studies showed that when people hit upon a black and white show or movie, they would just keep going without stopping to see what it is.
Right.
Only because it was in black and white. It must be old. It must be bad.
Right.
So we're here to squelch that. We're here to say no. There
No.
are good movies out there, good old movies.
There certainly are, and I don't know how effective we can be in that regard, but at the same time, we can do our best.
We can go down fighting.
We can go down fighting.
And we will fight.
We will fight.
Listen, Scotty Ratner, why don't you explain to the fine people out there what this show structure is going to take?
For this episode, we're doing something. I came up with a kind of stupid pun name for this one. It's called Prizes and Prejudices.
With
Basically,
apologies to Miss Austin.
exactly. Never heard of her.
Jane, stop this crazy
She
thing.
She may. One of her films might be one of the ones we used to.
Ooh,
I don't know. You
okay,
never
you
know.
never know.
You never know. Because Nick and I both talk about old movies a lot, but I don't think we've often really discussed exactly what our top favorite films are.
Like our five favorite
Our five favorite, which we narrowed it down to now. I know what some of your favorite films are, but I certainly don't know what your top five are. And I can make a couple. I can make a guess in a couple cases, maybe a few cases, but
Yeah.
So we're gonna,
and vice versa.
and so we're gonna try that. We're gonna do a little thing where we mention where we start at number 5 for each of us.
Right.
And
Can I just bring up the fact that we
yeah.
haven't been on for more than 6-7 minutes?
Oh, have we?
And Gabby, my beautiful cat, is sound asleep. Thank you,
Oh,
Gabby.
wow.
Thank you for your vote of confidence. Okay.
I don't know if the audience heard that either because they may be soundly asleep too.
The cat's
So,
snoring.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. He wanted to mention Gabby. I know he wanted to mention
The
Gabby
Gabbaroo, the old
because
Gabbaroo.
she's lovely.
She's my cat.
She's a lovely cat.
And I adore her. Thank you, Scotty.
Okay, so let's say I would start.
Okay.
I'll give the year of my 5th favorite film.
And I have to guess it.
You have to guess it. If you don't guess it correct, I'll give you one more hint.
I'll try again.
And if not, I'll tell you what it is, and we'll go on from there and discuss the film and give our opinions, etc., and why. I'll justify why it's on number 5 on my, why it's on my list.
Okay.
So
Sounds
should
good
we?
to me.
Should we go first?
You start with you. It's your idea.
All right.
You go first.
1933.
Oh boy, what a shocker. 1933. I'm going to guess the Kennel murder case.
You got it.
Whoa!
Guess.
Ding, ding,
First
ding.
Guess.
Ding, ding.
First ding,
Ding,
ding.
ding, ding, my darling.
Ding, ding, ding.
Ding, ding, ding. We have
All
a
right.
Cary Grant bell here. So.
Yeah, and Cary Grant was not in this movie. So we should go, no, Nora.
Mommy.
Mommy.
Now, Asta.
The Kennel Murder Case is a 1933 film made at Warner Brothers.
Is Asta in it?
Yes, he actually is.
Like for one shot?
He is in for one shot.
Yeah.
It's about it's the kennel murder case. So there's a major scene that takes place in a kennel, and he's not one of the star doggies of
No,
the film, which are
But
mostly.
the following year.
The following year, he made it big.
Yeah.
And this film is a Philo Vance mystery. Philo Vance being the dilettante detective, aristocratic detective, created by S.S. Van Dyne. Mm-hmm. And in this
I
was
sailed on that.
you sailed on the
Yes, I
S.S.
did.
Van Dyne.
Got seasick.
And it sunk too. It was terrible. But they checked for your fingerprints. Anyway,
I don't accept checks. All right.
they
Yes, we're enjoying ourselves.
we're enjoying ourselves. It was the 4th or technically 5th time that William Powell played Philo Vance. Mm-hmm. The other 4
Rathbone?
were for it's the 6th, probably the 6th time there was a Philo Vance. Powell played it 4 times, 3 previous Paramount films as
Great
Philo
alliteration there, by the
Vance.
way.
Yes, previous Paramount.
Previous Paramount.
Powell films.
Powell films.
Philo films. And also one other film, which is also Paramount on Parade.
I'm going to get an umbrella if
Yeah,
you
I
don't
know.
mind me.
Paramount on Parade had a small skit with
That's right, with
Powell.
Philo Vance.
So that would be his. So this is really his 5th time playing Philo Vance, but it was his first time at Warner Brothers, and usually recognized as the best Philo Vance film.
I'd have to agree.
And I would say that's primarily because of the directorial efforts of Michael Curtiz.
Michael Curtiz. I watched
And-
it the other night. I
and
watched it
it's-
recently.
Yeah, it's an amazing directorial effort. I mean, it's a director's film.
Yes, it's very stylistic. It moves like lightning, and it's just as entertaining now as I'm sure it was back then.
Yeah, and I would say that it's just as entertaining. But the interesting thing about it it's not a film of performances. It's, although everybody gives a good
Everybody's good.
performance, everybody's good, they're giving their stock types, including Powell. Powell's my favorite actor, but I don't think it's a very rich performance. He's playing...
He's subdued.
He's subdued, and he's also playing the stereotype. He's playing the aristocratic detective.
Right.
People have sometimes called it a warm-up for Nick Charles. I don't think it is,
No.
because I think other performances he gave are more like Nick Charles than his Philo Vance
Right.
is. It's a detective, so that's why they make the connection.
But it's that kind of wise guy, not taking much seriously, knowing he's on top of it, so he has a good time while he's doing it.
Right.
All the Nick Charles stuff.
It does have some of that, but at the same time, it doesn't have either the level of humor,
Right.
or the level of foibles, or the level of it's just an elegant performance.
The Seven Little Foibles.
The Seven Little
Yeah.
Foibles. They only had
Oh,
six
by
of
the
them.
way, get used to puns.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. That's a shock. But so I think that's the appeal of the film for me. Also, Golden Age detective fiction is my other great
That's your
passion.
thing.
And I think this film, one of the reasons I love this film is because, to me, it's the visual epitome of the American Golden Age detective film. It looks like a Philo Vance novel or an Ellery Queen novel would look.
Yeah, right.
Visually, it
Yeah.
matches that. And it's a world I would love to live in. And the great thing about Warner Brothers, when they did The City, it looked like it was a real thing. It didn't look like a set. Whereas I always feel like RKO, you go out in the streets and you go, oh, that's a set.
Yeah.
That's a backlot.
Fox is kind of like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Warner Brothers there.
It looks like the city of Betty Grable built it. you know?
Exactly. exactly. But here it looks like it looks streamlined and all that, but it looks like a real city. And the whole thing, it looks like a real world that I love. It's that smart set.
Well, all the Long
New York.
Island stuff.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Shishi Long Island stuff.
Yeah, it's
you know?
wonderful.
It's beautifully photographed. Do
you
you
have
remember the DP on that one?
Oh my goodness!
I know, that's
can't
hard.
believe that I don't know right now. I
Oh.
should check that up.
It looks like Lee Garmus, but I could be wrong.
No, it's not Lee Garmus.
Can you hand me my phone and I'll look
sure.
it up as we speak?
All right. It's I know that that Oki did the production design,
Right.
not Jack Oki.
No,
but
no, with the
other-
Y.
Yeah. And I should know. This is really.
I know it's
embarrassing,
hard. See,
I
we're
don't know.
already embarrassing ourselves.
Yeah.
We're claiming to be movie experts. So this is the Kennel murder case.
1933.
It
It also stars Mary Astor.
There you go.
Ralph Morgan, Paul
Yeah.
Kavanaugh.
You have to say Ralph Morgan like Jack Benny. Ralph Morgan.
Ralph Morgan.
It was Ralph Morgan.
Or Ralph Morgan, who's the brother of Frank Morgan.
Frank Morgan. Who rang that bell?
So, yeah, so that was, we're still checking this up. I should say,
Keep
should I
talking.
say something else about it?
Yes, please.
Who else was that? Oh, Etienne Girardot.
Oh,
Girardot,
as
actually.
the coroner.
As the coroner,
He's
Dr.
so funny.
Doremus.
He's always his meals are always interrupted.
Yes, and he comes up with the line, I'm not
was it?
a detective. I'm a doctor,
I'm a
not a
doctor."
detective. Which, of course,
He's very
later was
funny.
taken up by DeForest Kelley in Star Trek, and I think there's enough examples of it in
Damn it, Jim.
there's enough examples of it in the Kennel murder case to indicate that they may have watched the Kennel murder case a few times.
William Rees.
William Rees, that's right.
And there we go.
I mean, what I'm going to argue and say no, IMDb is wrong.
No, he's wrong.
It
Well,
is
they are.
William.
They are
it
often
is William.
wrong.
They
actually.
are wrong, but in that case, they're not wrong.
Yeah.
According to the credits.
According to the credits. Yeah.
According to the credit, it is William Rees.
But it is a great movie, and if you get a chance, it's in public domain, right? But
which is an advantage and a disadvantage. Blessing
an
and a curse.
advantage because it's so available, a disadvantage because there's so many lousy prints out there.
Right.
So look for a good one. Watch for it on TCM. They show
Mm-hmm.
a pristine print.
And I believe even YouTube has a few prints of it, but at least one of them is very good.
Right. Right.
Worth watching, I think.
Oh.
So that's my number 5.
Wow, that's a goodie. That's a
All
goodie.
right.
I'm with you. My
Now
turn.
your turn. What's the year of your number
Okay.
5?
It's 1931.
All right, I'm going to go with the obvious that the only thing I can think of for you for 1931 would be City Lights.
That's right, City Lights. Charlie Chaplin's masterpiece, City Lights. Not only one of the great tearjerkers of all time, but one of the great comedies of all time. Right up there with my favorites. which we'll get to later.
All right.
But yeah, I don't know.
So now we have a clue. He's got some comedies.
Yeah,
in the top
see?
four.
Well,
So-
I may look at something you see as drama as comedy. You never know.
That's true.
So what do I say about this movie? It was made in 1931. It was audacious in the sense that Chaplin refused to talk. He refused to make a talking film. He thought his art was strictly in pantomime, and some would agree with him. In fact, a lot of people would agree with him.
And he could afford, not
Yes.
only financially, but also in terms of box office. He's the one person who could afford to hold out and say, no, I'm not giving in to
He wrote his own rules.
Yeah.
The reason I revere Chaplin as probably maybe the greatest figure in motion picture history is that he pretty much showed everyone how to do it. He showed everyone how to do it. He was independent. He was successful. His talent backed up every word I'm saying, and he was the one that I envied and admired the most. He was responsible. He wasn't like Keaton, who had to rely on other people.
Right.
Lloyd also had the money to sustain, but he lost his audience.
Right.
But Chaplin held his audience up until the time that they went crazy in this country and started pointing
Right.
fingers at anything remotely pink. Wait a minute, that sounds dirty.
Even
yes.
even I'd say even prior to that, he started. There was a little bit of a wane in the 40s. He didn't really hold up.
Well, Monsieur Verdoux is where he lost them,
Yeah,
and that was what 47.
47. So I guess they already were. The Red Scare was already starting.
That started already.
Yeah.
So that was also a victim
probably right.
of that. But the previous one, the one before that, The Great Dictator, was a huge hit.
Yes.
Huge. Another audacious, brave film to make
yeah.
at the time, even though the Three Stooges did beat him to it is it You Nazi Spy, it's called.
Yeah.
You Nazi Spy.
You know,
So anyway, that's my first choice. It's Chaplin's City Lights.
yeah, I like City Lights a lot. I think it's a film that I need to see with an audience because
Without a doubt.
the emotional aspect of it fully works on me. The comic aspect on it, I have moments that really work for me, and I have stretches that don't, and that's probably because, as strange as it may seem, sometimes you do need an audience to help you recognize
Absolutely.
where the comic pieces are.
Well, there's certain movies you could watch on television alone and not laugh once, not even smile.
Yeah.
And then see it with a crowd, and
then
you're
realize-
laughing along
yeah.
with everybody else.
Yeah,
That's
so-
how they're built.
There are many things in City Lights that I do find funny, but not enough to bring it to that level for me. But talk about an emotional impact of a final
The ending,
final moment.
perhaps
Oh.
the most powerful ending I think in film
Maybe.
history.
Maybe.
And it's just a close up. It's just a close up of the tramp.
Yeah.
You know. And if you get a chance, anybody listening right now, and you haven't seen this film or you haven't seen it in a long time, go back, revisit, enjoy, but especially watch for it being screened somewhere with an audience, because you'll really rediscover your love for Charlie Chaplin.
Good. Good.
How about you now? Number two.
Number
four.
four.
Number four. No, I just have to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, exactly. Number 4 here for me is 1942.
Oh my goodness, what a leap.
Yeah.
42. Okay, I'm trying to think. 42. Yeah, it's fun. I think it's... No, that was 44. Is it...
I can guess which one you're thinking
it-
for 44, but
I know.
Yeah.
I know you could. Is it Preston Sturges?
no.
I need a hint.
Mainstream.
Casablanca.
Yes.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Another my second Michael Curtiz film.
That's right. You are
in my top 5, and it is a very mainstream film.
extremely one of the most.
And I think if you
mainstream
mention
films.
it usually as a favorite film, everybody thinks you've got incredibly mainstream taste.
Right, exactly.
To which my argument is always my top 2 films of 1936 are Piccadilly Chim and Love Letters of a Star, which I think that kind of gives me the credit.
So
for
right
being-
away, you've been exonerated.
I've been
Don't worry.
exonerated from yeah. But I think Casablanca, I don't know how much I have to tell about it. It's a film in which there were letters of transit. No, it's a I don't know what you say about what I don't even know how to classify it. It's a romance, not much of an adventure, but
Intrigue.
a romance intrigue
Melodrama.
comic
Comic, definitely comic.
And
but mostly romance.
mostly romance, but romance of a few different kinds. Romance not only of the general, man-woman romance, but also the romance of idealism, which I think is even the greater romance of it. Is it's taking people from a point of cynicism to idealism, the romance of that,
Right.
the romance of a new hope.
Watching Rick's, Humphrey Bogart's journey from being a somewhat cynical, complacent,
Right.
cynical, spectator.
Yeah.
To
not even complacent, cynical, bitter.
Bitter, yeah.
Bitter.
Yeah. Had his heart broken, stomped on.
Yeah.
And then we watch him come around to the cause.
And we also watched someone who's been on the edge the whole time.
That's right.
Reno.
That's right.
Who really is. So I had a friend talk to me about this recently, and he said he felt that Reno's actions are inconsistent. The fact that he gives a phone call to Strasser right towards the end and all this. And I don't think they're consistent. I think he's a man constantly torn between the fact that he wants to do something one way because he believes in it, but he also knows that life would be a lot easier for him
Right.
if he sides with the Nazis.
And that's what I see in him. That's his only flaw of character in my estimation. He does do what's easiest. He's a roue. He's
Exactly.
he's a rogue, and he's a lovable
As
one.
he says, the way the wind blows.
Right, exactly.
I mean, he and I think
But
that's...
you know that at the end, he's changed that opinion. He's on the side of right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was Rick's action that led him to say, okay, this is enough. But so I don't think there's any inconsistency there in Reno.
Right.
I also think when we talk about the humor aspect of the film, it's incredibly important because one of the appeals to me of the whole film is that it's a Warner Brothers film in the sense of everything from early Cagney films to Bugs Bunny. It's a wise guy film, and
that's what they do best at Warner Brothers.
Most of the best moments in the film, even if they are dealing with idealism and all that, most of the best moments are wise guy moments. They're either, in fact, that's why the two best characters, most interesting characters, are Rick and Reno, because they are the wise guys.
Yeah.
And they get to have those little snapbacks. Maybe my favorite line in the whole film is, "Are my eyes brown?" I mean,
my eyes really brown.
Exactly. I mean that's.
Here's something you don't even know.
I don't know.
In the final scene, the final line, right? They're walking. Bogart and Raines are walking into the distance in the mist, and Bogart says, "Louis, this is the begin. This looks like the beginning of a beautiful friendship."
And I know that it was changed several times.
Well, actually, there was a line after that they cut.
The larceny one.
That they cut. He said, "Louis, this looks like the beginning of a beautiful friendship," and Claude Rains said, "That's right. Now get off my foot." They cut that. They cut it out. They cut it out. But anyway, so that's just a little tidbit of information.
I believe
that
you.
I think you all should know.
I believe you.
Rick, get off my foot.
You know, your Claude Rains impression
just like Chick O'Mara
is a good your Chick O'Mara.
I'm shocked, Rick.
He does a lot of great impressions.
Yeah, but not this one.
Claude Rains is not one of them. Your Chico's better than your Claude Rains.
That's a good. See, that's good. I leave it to my friends.
Okay.
All right. So that's Casablanca, and there's not a lot you could say about Casablanca because it is. It's probably the most. Would you say this is the most mainstream of your choices?
Oh yeah.
Okay. All right.
Well, that gave away a clue, didn't it? But that's not saying much because it's the most. It's probably about as mainstream as you can get for a classic cinema choice.
Right.
And what do you think? You like the film, right?
I love Casablanca. I think I always call it a near perfect film.
You know something? I will say that one of the tributes to it is the fact that it is on my list because over publicity has an effect on me that I'm not proud of, but it does. It turns me away from things.
Mm-hmm, me too.
When something is too lauded, it's just after a while I get sick of it because I've heard of it too much.
Right.
Well, Casablanca's got all that publicity.
And still lives through it.
And still lives through it. And I know people who don't like it, and I respect that. But at the same time, it really works for me because I'll watch it again and again.
It's one of those movies. It's one of those movies. Yeah, I feel that way about it too. It's just a near perfect film. And there aren't many of those, believe me.
And I will tell you something. I had the two Curtiz films, and this will give away for the future for the rest of this thing, is that it's odd that because those are the only two that are on my list. And my next favorite Curtiz film is probably in about 25 or 30 on my list. And it's, of all things, The Case of the Curious Bride.
Wow, that's interesting.
That's weird. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's not like, even though Curtiz is one of my favorite directors, the fact is, it's not like it's all loaded. It just so happens that that's the way the chips fell.
Right, right. That's
this case.
interesting. That's
So-
interesting because I think I have more on my top 20 than you do as far as Curtiz.
Probably.
Um,
So you're number 4?
number 4. Okay, I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say 1941.
1941. Okay. I am not going to guess Citizen Kane.
You'd be wise. No.
Although I love the film.
I
and
do too.
I think it. 1941. I'm gonna go out on a limb here. It's weird. Lady Eve?
No.
No. What is it?
Don't you want a hint?
Oh yeah, I want to hint. Sorry about that.
You forgot your own rules.
I forgot my own rules. I don't know.
We're gonna take
Rules
Let me
are
take
meant to be broken. At least mine are by me. It's a movie
And so's
quote.
my chair for
That's a
some-
quote from 1970.
It's an excellent clue.
Can I ask a Welsh. How green was my brownie? As
You
my brother
got
used to
it.
call it.
You
How
got
green
it.
was my valley?
How Green Was My Valley?
Very good film.
Oh, one of the best. Another one of those near perfect films, like Casablanca and Citizen Kane, and Larceny Inc. Which is one of my favorite films.
I know it is.
It may
I
not
know
be
it
one
is.
of my top
I
5,
know.
but still. No, it's one of the most beautiful films Ford has ever made. I know that it's powerful because I start crying during the opening credits.
Oh wow.
And I probably cry when I'm not laughing at the comedy. I probably cry more during this film than any other film in history, in my history. It's so touching. The performances are just beautiful. The score, the music from the male
who
chorus.
did the score?
I'm not even sure. Let me check it out. This was what 20th Century Fox in '41.
So it would
Bernstein,
be
maybe.
yeah, or what's his name? Newman.
Yeah, right. It could be Nerman.
Yeah.
All right.
Alfred E. Newman was writing scores. It was terrible. He would write a score. And people they'd say, "Wait, those are the wrong notes." You go, "What? Me worrying?
What,
Yeah.
me score?
Me score.
I say that when I go to bars. Let me see. How green was my haven?
All right. I will say, while you're looking
Go
it
ahead.
up,
While you're go ahead.
I will say that, in my opinion, the one thing this film has against it, which is not really against it, I'm not saying it's anything. One reason its reputation is not as high as it might be, is because people hold something against it for winning,
against
Citizen Kane, which they feel is
kind of the reason one of the reasons I like it.
which is something that is unfair to that film because they are both. I mean, I love Citizen Kane.
I do too, but I
But
think
they're-
this movie's just as good, if not better.
Yeah, and I'm not sure I feel that way, but at the same time, it's certainly a good battle. It's certainly an arguable one.
Oh, without a doubt.
Without a doubt. And the fact is, in any other year, I mean, you could certainly move either one of them to another year, and you'd say that should definitely be they should definitely be both Best Picture.
Right. I agree.
And they're both better than so many Best Picture.
Oh, please.
Oscars.
That could be a whole show.
Yeah, exactly.
I
Probably
could do
will
a
be.
whole show.
Yeah.
Okay, it is.
I say Newman. My guess is Newman.
Oh boy, orchestrator is Hugo. No, okay, hold on. I'm looking. Hang on, everyone.
All right, we're going to find out who wrote the score.
I may not be able to do this. Can somebody call in?
We're certainly not good at this. It says music.
It's just that I didn't watch it recently, so I'm
All
not-
right.
Oh, here it is. Music by Alice Cooper.
Alice Cooper.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
Who would have
Who
known?
would have known?
Alice Cooper.
Alice Cooper.
Oh my God, I loved him in
Who's the fight?
in Bo
Is there
Death.
actually
Alfred Newman.
Oh, I got it.
You got it,
My
Pally.
vote.
You got
That was
it.
just luck of the draw. Let's face it.
It's true.
It's the Fox. It's Fox in the 40s. I mean,
Yeah. And
know?
I enjoy Foxes in the 40s, but
Exactly.
but yeah. So I just think it's a beautiful film. I think it's a very touching film. I think it's one of Ford's. How can I put this? Ford tends to. I love Ford. He's one of my top 3 favorite directors, but he tends to load his movies with kind of this bully boy humor. You know, this Irish kind of,
Right.
I'm going to punch you in the face humor.
yeah.
It's almost totally lacking in this film.
Right.
and it kind of plays better for it, I believe.
Yeah.
And then you've got some. I mean, Donald
Also-
Crisp was just the best performance he's ever given.
Yeah.
What's her name? Sarah
Maureen.
Allgood.
Oh, Sarah Allgood.
Who won an Oscar, didn't she, for this?
That I don't know.
No, Donald Crisp did. Donald Crisp, well deserved. Sarah
Won
Allgood
Sarah
should have.
Allgood's Oscar.
Right.
He won.
He won,
Best Actress. It
and
was
they didn't talk
horrible.
to each other for
They didn't talk
years
for
over
years.
it. Seriously. It was all in Sarah Allgood's autobiography.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Don't mention the title. But
I
anyway,
won't.
that's
Scott
a-
and I have a habit of making up really dirty titles to people's autobiographies. Someday we'll go into it.
and I'll tell you, it's not all good.
No, it's
all right?
not. It's not even all Sarah.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Sarah Allgood is wonderful. Maureen O'Hara has never been
Maureen
more
O'Hara,
beautiful.
yeah.
Walter Pidgeon may be my favorite Walter Pidgeon performance. Roddy McDowell is just
fantastic.
fantastic. Patrick Knowles is fantastic. I mean, it's just all the way down the line.
I think one thing I think about it is that the other direction that Ford goes that I'm not always comfortable with is that because these films take place in worlds that I'm not particularly comfortable with, and they're not particularly it's not the New York scene in any way.
It's not a wise guy scene.
It's not a wise guy scene, and because of that, sometimes they're pretty stoic landscapes.
Yeah.
They're pretty quiet where people don't speak much, and sometimes that can go too far for me too.
Yeah, well, he does make beautiful pictures.
He makes beautiful pictures, but sometimes it's in a land where it's almost where I wish somebody would talk, or wish and sometimes that can be a little direction. Actually, as good a film as it is, My Darling Clementine goes a little too far in that direction for me.
Well, that's not my favorite John Ford film.
No, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I do,
Is
and that's one of the reasons.
Sometimes it gets a little too, we don't speak and you know what we're saying.
Right.
And it's not just a matter of talking; it's just a matter of it's a stoicism. Mm-hmm. And so he can either get that rough boy,
That bully boy,
brawling comedy, which can go overboard, or the stoicism. And this film is neither one of those.
Right.
It is a quiet film in that people aren't joking around all the time, but at the same time, it still feels filled in.
Right.
In all levels.
I love it because it's about family. It's about family. It's about the importance of family. It's about making decisions as part of a family, and it's about saying goodbye to your family. And it's just beautiful, and it plays just as well today as I'm sure it did 70-something years ago, 80 years ago.
Bogdanovich, Peter Bogdanovich,
Murray Bogdanovich.
Murray Bogdanovich.
He runs the deli
But
downstairs.
he actually, and of course he's a Citizen Kane fan because he's Orson Welles' best buddy. But he voted How Green Was My Valley is the best picture Oscar winner ever.
And
I
I don't know if I agree with that, but
I'm not
it's
sure I do
definitely
either.
one of them.
I'm not
Definitely
sure
one
I
of
agree,
them.
but it's certainly a.
It's a best picture.
It's definitely a best picture, and again, that's nothing to say against the wonderfulness of Citizen Kane,
which is
a great film.
also a best picture.
Yeah.
And in the hearts of movie buffs.
Yeah.
everywhere. Okay, so you, number
So,
3.
Number 3. Okay. 1946.
Wow, that's certainly
One of my favorite years, by the way.
flummoxed me.
One of my-
46 is one of your favorite
One
years.
of my favorite years.
Huh.
32, 33, and 46 are my 3 favorite film years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Let's see. 46. Clooney Brown wasn't 46, was it?
It was.
It's Clooney Brown.
It's not Clooney Brown.
Give
In fact,
me
I just thought about it today. In a weird way, I love Clooney Brown.
Yeah,
You know what?
I know.
But in a strange way, I'll explain this in a minute. It's kind of the anti-Clooney Brown.
the anti.
But I'll give you the clue. I'll give you my
Is
clue.
it a royal scandal?
No.
That was 45.
That was 45.
Give me a clue.
British.
Ooh, Stairway to Heaven.
Yes. A Matter of Life and Death.
A Matter of Life and Death.
Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah.
And I call it anti-Clooney Brown because you watch this film, and there's such...
It sounds like an old Cockney pub song. Anti-Clooney Brown, Anti-Clooney Brown, Anti-Clooney Brown.
Hey!
Set him up. Okay. Sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
This film, you watch it, and there's such a love of that England. I mean, you look at it, the scenes where Roger Livesey is motorcycling through the countryside, and look at it, and you're going, what a beautiful world these people live in, even though it's being torn.
You're right.
And that's
Right.
the big shame of it. It's this beautiful beautiful civilization, and that's one of the charms of the film, of its many. And it's a gorgeous film, and it brings up a true love of Great Britain, and does it in an interesting way because Powell and Pressburger, the writer-directors of it, were kind of famous for kicking Great Britain. At the same time,
Satirizing.
they're
Yeah.
satirizing. At the same time, they're celebrating it.
Right.
And that's the great thing about the film. And so it's really a love of it makes you feel warm towards Great Britain. And the weird thing about Clooney Brown is, made the same year by Lubitsch, is that although it also celebrates Great Britain in some ways, America in that represents the escape and the hope of freedom.
Yeah, yeah.
At the end of that film,
That's right.
You let the people in state England stay in state England, but you move to a world in which you can do whatever you want.
Right.
So they're both kind of playing with those dynamics. It's a film, by the way, a Stairway to Heaven or A Matter of Life and Death. A Matter of Life and Death is the actual original
British title.
British title. And it came here, and because we're very materialistic here in America, they said, "Oh, have to name it after a prop."
And also heaven.
Yeah,
we're
heaven,
talking.
yeah.
We're talking to the
Exactly.
the Catholics.
But it's a film about an RAF pilot played by David Niven who jumps out of a plane and is missed in the fog by a not an angel of death, but a courier from a messenger.
Right.
A messenger who's supposed to collect the body, and misses him in the fog because he's French and he misses him in the fog. And in the meantime, he's fallen in love with a whack,
Wacky whack.
a wacky whack, an American officer. I guess she's not an officer, but a member of the
Of the army.
army, played by Kim Hunter, and they've fallen in love. And so there's a big court trial in heaven to decide whether he can stay with her. And it's a beautiful film. It's a witty film as well. I prize that in films. It's visually gorgeous, beautifully
Like most of their films.
like Powell and Pressburger made beautiful films.
I don't think anyone made more beautiful films
No.
than that in Technicolor.
No, I agree. I can tell you the DP on that one.
Oh, yeah.
Director of photography was Jack Cardiff, who was
One of the best.
One of the best.
I got
color.
to meet him.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I got to
Oh,
meet
wow.
him at the Academy
Wow.
shortly before he passed away.
Oh.
And I'm a big fan. He was,
Yeah, he was truly an amazing.
helped define the whole genre of,
Yeah.
DP.
Yeah, especially color photography.
Yeah.
His color photography was just gorgeous. Very romantic film as well.
Great love story.
Great love story.
But I also have to say, interestingly,
Mm-hmm.
it's one of quite a few fantasies being made at the time.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, America was becoming a little tired of fantasy films at that point. I don't know how this one did. At
In
the
America,
box office. Yeah.
it did okay.
Yeah.
I think it did okay. It did well in England, even though the critics in England never really were crazy about
Yeah.
Powell and Pressburger.
Which is amazing to me.
It's strange.
Yeah.
But I think it made money there, and it was one of the, I think it was the first Royal Command performance. And it's interesting when you're talking about the fantasies. One of the big ones in America, and I think that it's usually attributed to the fact that we had a world war, and so
When was that? Where was I?
I forgot to tell you.
Damn, you don't get the
We-
paper
no,
3
I
days
sent
in a
you-
row.
I sent you a telegram on it.
Oh,
and it
when?
Must have got lost. Must have got
Oh,
lost.
God damn.
But in the World War, people were dying, and so they were it was very cheering to people to think it always. Let's face it, war always brings people to religion, and at that time, the idea that these people could live a life beyond the whole idea of the afterlife is very comforting to people.
Oh, sure.
To think we're not losing them; they're going beyond, and that's why you had it. And I think the big one that made it in America to start off was Here Comes Mr. Jordan.
You're right. And
then
that was 41. I think.
41, and following from that, several others. But there was a
Well, you had what? You had It Happened Tomorrow.
It
A
happened.
fantasy.
It was a fantasy.
I'm talking about fantasies in
Oh,
general.
fantasies, yes,
That same year, 46, The Time of Their Lives with Abbott and Costello.
absolutely.
And then a little later on, you had probably the granddaddy of them all, It's a Wonderful Life.
Right.
And by that time, audiences were just like, enough with the fantasies already.
Yeah.
And
that's why. Well, of course, the war ended, and all of a sudden things got darker,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why It's a Wonderful Life is a fascinating film because it's a combination of the two.
Yeah, it is.
It's a combination of people saying fantasy and saying let's be cynical. So it's a weird hybrid there.
Yeah.
But I think there's an interesting story I've heard about Harry Cohn saying to someone, I don't want to put money into this film. Harry Cohn, the tycoon of
He was
Columbia,
the head of Columbia
head
Studios.
of Columbia, the mogul. And someone offered him a film. I don't know who this was, and said, "We'll make this film." He goes, "No, no fantasies. Don't want fantasies." And they said to him something to the effect of, "Well, remember, Here Comes Mr. Jordan. Remember how much money that made?" And he goes, "Yes, but think of how much money it would have made if it wasn't a fantasy."
So, well, he should have mentioned the follow-up, which lost money, which was Down to Earth.
Down to Earth,
Right?
right? Which is Here Comes Mr. Jordan has one of those fascinating title and remake histories that no one can explain, because you have Here Comes Mr. Jordan, which is based on a play called Heaven Can Wait. There was a Lubitsch film 2 years later, unrelated, called Heaven Can Wait.
Wonderful film.
There was the sequel to Here Comes Mr. Jordan called Down to Earth. There was later a remake of Here Comes Mr. Jordan called Heaven Can Wait. And then another one called Down to Earth, which was a remake of Here Comes Mr. Jordan, not of Down to Earth.
Not of Down to Earth.
And
This kind of explains the sensibilities of Hollywood in general,
Yes,
or the lack
yes.
of them therein.
it's almost like there are a few other cases of that with like saboteur, sabotage kind of thing.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
all those things where it's confusing to follow the
That's
the whole
true.
thing.
That's true.
But
or discerning between Joseph Crean and Charles Brown. Sorry.
you got me thinking. I was taking this seriously.
I was kind of being serious. I mean, these are two guys from old movies, two character actors who usually played,
Yeah.
cops or baseball
You mean-
owners. Baseball
You
team
mean Charles
owners.
Williams or Charles
Brown.
Charles Brown?
Yeah, who was a slimmer version of Joseph Crean.
Oh, Joseph Crean.
Yeah, but the same kind of type.
Yeah.
They played the same kind of roles.
Oh, yeah, a
This
lot
is the
of-
kind of stuff I can't wait to talk about.
A lot of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway.
So we just did number 3 for me.
Yeah.
Number 3 for you.
Okay, I'm gonna say 1932.
1932.
Yowza.
Is it one of my favorite films?
Might be.
Okay. Is it?
I'm guessing it is.
Is it Trouble in Paradise?
No.
Is it Horse Feathers?
That's what it is. Thank you.
All right.
My favorite Marx Brother movie.
My favorite Marx Brothers movie as well.
Yeah, it's the zaniest. It's doesn't have Duck Soup's Leo McCarey-ism being forced upon it, which is not a bad thing. Don't get me wrong, but it's not. Duck Soup is not pure Marx Brothers. It's got some of the greatest things they've ever done in it.
Yes.
But it's not pure Marx Brothers.
Although-
It's kind of like a hybrid of Laurel and Hardy and the Marx Brothers.
Although Duck Soup does have one advantage
What is that?
over Horse Feathers 5. It has momentum. It has a forward momentum.
Right. There's more at stake.
It leads. It leads towards the last scene of except for the fact that it has a football
Well, it has a
game.
football game, which
It has
is
a
fun.
football game, but even still, it's one of those shows where you could take the first act of the film and put it at the end.
Exactly. Yeah.
Whatever. It doesn't.
Let's stop to
it-
do a
it's-
schoolroom sketch.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's the style is all there,
But it's just
it
joy.
doesn't. It doesn't have the. It is pure joy. It doesn't have. And again, it's my favorite Marx Brothers film too. It doesn't have the structural strength of Duck Soup.
No, it doesn't.
But-
it doesn't. But it's the Marx Brothers.
But it is the
you
Marx
know?
Brothers. It has.
and they would enjoy destroying what you just mentioned. You
That's
know what
true.
I mean?
That's
so
true.
I have to choose Horse Feathers. It's a scathing satire on higher education.
Yes.
It's got beautiful Thelma Todd in it.
Yes.
It's lacking Margaret Dumont, which is definitely a minus. It has some of Zeppo's greatest stuff.
Yes.
Maybe his best stuff. He gets to sing a whole song by himself.
No, he doesn't get Hunga Dunga. That's pretty good.
Well, that's pretty good, but still, he's playing.
You're right.
He's playing straight man to Groucho there. Here,
Yeah.
he's doing his own thing.
That's
He's
true.
romantic.
That's true.
He's romancing Thelma Todd. And
Boy,
and-
he is romantic.
and-
That's a romantic man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Zeppo Marx. Oh, yeah.
No, I quite agree. It's certainly my favorite Marx Brothers
Mm-hmm.
film, and
You had the great writers on it. You had Kalmar and Ruby Songs and script. You had S.J. Perlman,
Yeah.
Will Johnstone. You had it was a really great collection of people, and their best director, Norman MacLeod.
yeah, I would say for me, the race between the top Marx Brothers films, is an awfully close race. So it's not like when someone says one of the other films, I look at and go, oh, I can't agree with you at all.
Right.
Even with Duck Soup.
Right.
I see the advantages to Duck Soup. I see the advantages to Horse Feathers. But I agree. I think it's probably their funniest film.
I think it's their funniest.
And it's got a lot of really, really wonderful things in it.
I can't wait to do a Marx Brothers show just to talk about the Marx Brothers.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to say something right now that might be provocative to those of you listening, and to you, my friend.
And to Gabby, who's listening.
And to
too.
Gabby.
Gabby's
who
awake,
sounds-
I think.
Awake, really?
Oh,
She's pretending to be asleep.
She can't sleep through a Horse
being-
Feathers talk.
She's waiting until we talk about Rhubarb.
Rhubarb.
The cat movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Or she wants us to discuss...
I think you just gave away what your number one choice is.
She wants us to discuss the final scene in Old Yeller.
Yeah.
That's what she likes. But anyway, what was I saying? The Marx Brothers.
You were talking about something provocative you were
Oh,
going to
yeah,
say
yeah.
about...
I was going to say, if I had to program a Marx Brother triple feature
Yes.
and possibility of a fourth feature,
Right.
and you're going to hate me, but I would say Horse Feathers,
Yes.
A Night at the Opera,
Okay.
just to show the next step,
Right.
and then The Big Store,
Yeah.
which is my second favorite MGM Marx Brother movie. And
You're right. I hate you.
you know, I say, I also love Happy. But anyway, we'll get to those.
I actually do. I
eventually.
actually do. There's a certain charm about Big Store
I love
that I
the Big
cannot
Store.
deny.
I can't explain it.
However, if I were to do a triple feature, for
Well,
me, it would be
no, I'm
it would be the top three.
Yeah, yeah.
I just do
Okay,
the top
I
three
know
of
what
those,
you're saying. I know what you're
and
saying.
our top three might not even agree on that.
No,
but
I
at
don't
the
think
same
they
time-
do. I don't think they
but
do.
at least maybe two of
For
them.
me,
would come up.
Opera is one of them.
Okay.
It's
yeah.
one of the top
Yeah.
three. I would say Horse Feathers, Duck Soup, and Opera are the
Yeah,
best
maybe
three.
be Horse Feathers, Duck Soup, and Animal Crackers.
Yeah, which
But-
I don't think is a good film. I think it's got great material, but I
Yeah.
don't think it's a good film.
Yeah. Well,
We're starting already, folks.
Yeah.
All right. So that's my number three. What's your
Number
number two?
number two.
I mean,
right?
in a nice
Yeah.
way. I
In a
mean.
nice way. Oh, I don't know what the clue for this one. I got to give it a
Clue. Clooney Brown.
I get an oh no, I won't give the clue for it. I'll just say
Joey Brown.
1945.
Okay. I didn't mention it before, did I?
I don't think so.
So it's not a royal scandal.
No.
Okay. 1945. Is it Hail the Conquering Hero?
No.
Miracle of Morgan's Creek?
I don't think that is 45. Is
It's
Miracle?
44.
Yeah.
Is
Is even Hail the Conquering
That's
Hero?
45.
It is? Okay.
Yeah. I believe it is. And if I believe it, it must be true.
It must be true. Check it out, folks. I think he's wrong.
Look it up, you guys. Look it up.
44. I don't know.
Look it up yourselves. All right. So 45. Give me a hint.
Oh, actually, before I go, I will say I'm pretty sure he's wrong because Miriam, our friend Miriam
Nelson.
was in two great films of 1944. I'm pretty sure.
Are you?
One being The Amazing Double Indemnity,
Right.
the other being Hail the Conquering Hero. I think that she was in the two greatest Paramount films of 1944,
Wow.
in my opinion.
And you think Conquering Hero is definitely 44?
I think so. I could be wrong.
You
but
know,
I'm pretty
you're
sure. I'm
probably
pretty sure. I'm
right.
pretty sure.
I'm trying to think of when he left, when Sturgis left Paramount, and I thought it was 45.
And I'm trying to think of the clue I can give you for the 45 film.
Yeah,
without
I'll
giving it
need one.
away. Right.
Is Debbie Reynolds in it?
No.
Okay.
She was seriously considered. For all my films.
Even before she was born?
Yeah, she was.
Wow.
She was,
You're right, 1944. I sit corrected.
There we go.
There we go. Okay, so it's
Just
not
remember
that
that one for the next time I'm wrong.
Yeah,
So
right.
that I can
which
go,
should
but...
be which should be any minute
Exactly, but at the same time, I'll go, but remember, Hail the Conquering Hero. Remember that one? You were wrong.
now. And then you'll hear a noise like this.
All right,
And that'll be his Adam's apple. He shot across the room. Which I find a little hard to swallow.
Exactly.
All right, so
45, I
yeah.
will say character actors.
Oh my.
Character,
And then there was none. And then there were
Yes.
none.
That's it.
I knew it.
Yes.
He's
The
my friend here is as he explained before, he is an expert on that genre, and he's especially an expert on Agatha Christie.
I don't
So
know if I'm especially. I don't
you
know
are
if I'm- I know-
quite the expert, my friend.
I know more than some people do.
Yeah.
And I love the film.
Agatha Christie used to call him for fact checking.
She did.
You know, so that's how
did.
that's how much you know.
She did. Her speeches sometimes were terrible. I mean, just
Oh, that
Full
one
of-
that one
full,
when they
yeah.
opened the Ralphs on Ventura Boulevard, forget it. She made me sick. Oh,
This was named after Ralph Bellamy.
Ralph Bellamy, who
This
appeared as the gooseberry in all the films with Cary Grant and
Agatha-
people slightly better
Agatha-
looking than himself.
Agatha,
What?
Bellamy,
Yes?
Bellamy wasn't part
Who
of
is this?
This is Scott,
I-
the guy who called you 5 minutes ago about your other mistake.
Let me talk to Nero Wolfe. I know he's home.
That's true. That's true. All right.
All right, sorry. We just went off a little bit.
All right. I think Gabby's puking now. I don't know.
Puking or giggling. I don't
Yeah,
know.
exactly. Gabby's not amused.
No.
Anyway, no, it is Another Were None, which is the 1945 film version of
10 Little Indians.
10 Little Indians, or
Native
whatever.
Americans.
Exactly, whatever you call the title. But
10 Little Cleveland Indians.
exactly the so it's a politically incorrect. All of its titles are politically incorrect.
Yes, they are.
Pretty soon, the society of ands and thens are going.
Don't say that. You'll get us in trouble.
No, but it has a lot of politically incorrect titles. However, it is the best-selling mystery novel of all time, and
Along
it
with
is-
the Bible.
along with the Bible, which is quite a mystery. But
That's what I meant. Yeah.
who did it? I don't know.
Deborah Jones.
But it's not. It's one of those adaptations that is more faithful to her play adaptation than it is to
Than
the
the book
novel.
itself.
As a matter of fact, it is because they literally had the rights to the play and not the original novel.
Mm-hmm.
But the play is quite different from the novel, and the film is actually quite different from the play.
Mm-hmm.
And it is not only different in terms of some major plotting aspects, but also a totally different tone. The novel is an extremely tense, harrowing story. Very suspenseful, very page turner, and very, you can read it and it gets you very uptight just reading it. The film, they went a totally different direction with it. They made it an elegant black comedy. It's if it's similar to anything, it would be to Kind Hearts and Coronets.
Yeah.
In,
in
or-
tone.
in tone.
It's another film, by the way, I watched very recently.
Kind Hearts and Coronets?
No.
Oh, and Then There Were None.
Yeah, I watched it a
Yes.
few weeks ago.
But it also is my favorite film score. Mm-hmm. And I would say the reason that it's so high on my list is for me, what I think would be the perfect entertainment for me would be a John Dixon Carr novel directed by Ernst Lubitsch. And I think an Agatha Christie novel directed by René Clair is the closest we'll ever come
You're
to
right.
that.
That's an excellent
And
observation.
it's beautiful entertainment.
One of Claire's best. I
It's
think.
it really is, and it's also very clever in its deception devices. It couldn't use all the same deception devices she used in the novel, so it came up with it. So Dudley Nichols and René Clair, I don't know
Bunch
to
of
what
communists.
level exactly. They came up with their own cinematic equivalents
Right.
of these
Which worked really, really well.
beautifully well. So it works really as a puzzle plot, and it works wonderfully as an entertainment otherwise.
Right.
And
And it is, oh boy, is it entertaining. Just the actors alone.
oh yeah,
And
and my favorite film score,
right.
which of all time, which is pretty tough when you got all those Bernard Herrmann
Yeah.
film scores, of Ghost and Mrs. Muir or whatever, these wonderful
Which is
scores.
beautiful, yeah.
Gorgeous scores.
So lush.
But this film score, by the way, I should give him a shout out because he
ahead.
needs it, is Mario Castelnuovo Tedesco.
Yeah, I love all of them.
Exactly.
I do.
They were a great trio. No, Mario Castelnuovo Tedesco, who is really renowned among guitar players as a great, and other musicians, as a great composer, but relatively obscure in terms of.
Can you name
film.
another film he's scored?
Yes, I can name a few others.
There was wait, the Unsinkable Molly Brown.
No.
And, the Buster Keaton story.
What were some of the ones that he did? Oh boy, I just messed it up. No, I do know some of them, but he actually was uncredited for a lot. Yeah,
Was that one of them?
it was actually a Check and Double Check. It was the Three Little Words was actually a lot of people credit it to Kalmar and Ruby, but it's really Mario Casanova. No, he has a few other credits.
Yeah. But you'd have to look them up.
I'd have to look them up. I thought I didn't. Now I'm embarrassed.
That's okay. Don't be embarrassed.
But he also did a lot of work, like a lot of those composers did, where he's got little snippets in films.
Mm-hmm.
But certainly not one of the major names.
Little Snippets was my nickname in high school, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here comes Little Snippets.
Oh, there it is.
Why, hello,
Cute.
Little Snippets.
Hello, Little
Oh,
Snippets.
yeah.
So, so that is my second favorite film of all time.
Okay.
And I love it.
Well, my turn then.
Yes.
Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
1932.
Is it one of my favorite films?
I would say it was.
I'm going to say Ernst Lubitsch's Trouble in Paradise.
Absolutely.
All
a
right.
film I can watch again and again and again and again. And
Well,
have.
it goes to show, when times are good, people will watch anything.
But, can I say that... okay, never mind.
I have a Facebook friend who thinks it's one of the worst films she's ever seen. So
Trouble in Paradise?
Yes.
Oh, my. Well,
So-
you know what? I've shown it to people that have gotten bored.
Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, I don't think, like a lot of Lubitsch films, it's made for a theater, a theater audience. I would say that for me, that's a big difference. I can watch a Capra film and get just about the same effect, because I've seen them in full houses. I can get the same effect in a full house as I can in solitary viewing. But with Lubitsch, it's night and day.
It's made
not
for
the
an
film
audience.
Night and Day, but
Yeah,
the
yeah,
difference.
yeah.
It's really made for an audience. I know with Shop Around the Corner, I never fully appreciated it until I thought it was a nice film and a charming film. I never realized how funny it was
Until
I
you saw it with an audience.
And Trouble in Paradise is a high comedy, and I find
To me, it's...
I find it can come off as cold,
Yes.
rather than elegant.
Right.
It can come
But
up.
it is the personification of elegance. It may be the most elegant movie ever made. It's classy. It's the writing is how would you describe the writing? It's just gorgeous. It's just
gorgeous.
beautiful.
It's gorgeous writing, but it's also very funny writing.
Yes, it is funny.
And that's the thing. There are elegant high comedies that are elegant but just aren't that funny.
right.
And this
And
one,
you have 3 stars at the top of their game.
yes,
You have Kay Francis, who never looked more beautiful.
Yeah.
You had Herbert Marshall, who was never more charming.
yes,
And Miriam Hopkins, who didn't play for once an overwrought character and was very, very charming.
right.
You know?
I don't even know if I quite feel the same way you do about the stars in it.
Really?
I feel that they're all great and they're all at their best, but these are stars that I really, except for Marshall, maybe Kay Francis because she's in a lot of my favorite films,
And
But
she made
these
a
are-
lot of movies with Powell,
and she made a lot of films with Powell. But
William Powell.
these are not stars I particularly connect with.
Oh, really?
But they're so good.
I do
in
with
this.
all 3, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm a
Yeah.
big Kay Francis fan. I love...
I think she's underrated, but
I
she's
do
still
too.
not. She's still not.
And
high
I
among
don't
my
think
favorites.
she's a great actress by any means. I just enjoy watching her.
Yeah.
I think she's absolutely gorgeous. I think she's stunningly gorgeous. But on top of that, I really love her way. I love her. I love the way she handles herself. I love that wry smile when she's like saying something sarcastic.
Yeah.
I think she's delightful. I really
And
do.
she's really wonderful. She is great in the film, and
Yeah.
the character actors
Oh my God. C. Aubrey Smith is
amazing.
amazing.
Always.
Edward Horton, and Charlie Ruggles. I mean, just beautiful. Robert Grieg.
Yeah,
The great Robert Grieg.
yeah. Who owned that year, as far as I'm concerned? He's in so
that was
many great
32.
1932
Oh my God.
films.
Well, you know,
Horse Feathers.
he's in Horse Feathers,
He's in,
yeah.
well,
hey,
I
we
mean,
bear you out.
that was pretty
That
good.
was a good Chico,
Yes,
huh?
if he keeps doing his Chico every time on this, he'll eventually be pretty good at it.
You know what I'm
There
doing?
go.
I'm sucking it out of Claude Rains and giving it to Chico. So
That's
Chico
good.
is strong and Rains is bad.
Yeah.
Okay?
The range is pretty bad.
No, when it rains, it pours.
Exactly.
When it rains, it's poor. But
Very
it's these crazy kids today with their Elvis dancing and their long hair.
No, and C. Aubrey Smith was also in my second choice, and then there were none. So
Yeah.
a lot of, But no, 1932, Robert Grieg was in Love Me Tonight.
Uh-huh.
He was in Trouble in Paradise. He was in
Feathers.
Horse Feathers. He was in Jewel Robbery.
Another great film.
Yeah, he was also in. He was something else around there. A few other films. Just an amazing year for him, and Charlie Ruggles, who also
Oh, Ruggles,
was in a
so,
lot of amazing 1932 films.
Yeah. Well, he was practically new at Paramount in Hollywood. I mean, he started at Astoria, like
Oh, at
in,
Ruggles? Yeah.
like in 2930, around
Yeah.
there, coming from the stage. But he and Horton are pretty much teamed up in this film, and they're kind of enemies, but they're sniping at each other through the entire film. But the main play are the three leads.
Yes.
And the tension between the three characters, and the
Right.
and the romance and the sexual tension. My God, it is one of the sexiest movies ever made, as far as I'm concerned.
And the true suspense, in the sense that you really don't know which way this is going to go.
Oh yeah. There's no indication at all.
It's not like
Is she going to turn around and call the cops and put
yeah.
them in jail?
Well,
What's she
also
gonna
it's
do?
not so many romantic comedies you look at and you say, oh, that's the obvious choice, but it's not. But she's not going to end up because she was, everybody thinks she's engaged to him, but she's going to end up with this guy because he's the real deal. So many, even really good comedies. Piccadilly Jim.
Right.
I love this film, but at the same time, you know where it's going from second one, but you really don't know
In this one, you don't know.
which way this romantic triangle is going to end up.
I can. This is one of the films that I can remember watching for the first time and feeling that way. Like,
Yeah.
which way is it? Who's he going to choose? What is he going
Also,
to do?
It's one thing I love about the film is that a quarter of the way through they've gone, or less than that, about a fifth of the way through the film, they've had these scenes in Venice, and all of a sudden you jump to something to a scene starting in Paris, to little things going on in Paris, and you have no idea what this has to do with what you saw before.
Right. All of a sudden,
And
there's a perfume commercial.
There's a perfume commercial, and then you move on to
Tyler
the people.
Brook.
Exactly. You move on to the people involved with the perfume company. Kate Francis, you see her for the first time, and you have no idea what this has to do with the first 15 minutes of the movie.
Right.
And it's not done, and it's not even done with an establishing shot. And meanwhile, in here, you just don't know. It's a surprising film in terms of structure there.
It's completely sophisticated.
Yeah.
It's a sophisticated film, and although you mentioned the fact that you don't know where it's going, I find it's also you're so happy to be along on the ride.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? That you kind of can't wait to see where it's going.
Exactly.
So I want to recommend this film to anyone who hasn't seen it. See Trouble in Paradise, 1932, Paramount Pictures, directed by Ernst Lubitsch.
And hopefully you see it.
With a crowd,
with
with
a
an
crowd.
audience. And I know that's not always the case, but if you're a patient human being and you could possibly imagine what it's like, watch it on television and just kind of sit back and enjoy it.
Yeah. And can I that was a perfect way to end that, but can I mention
He's going to
another
spoil it.
great thing about the film is that he does fascinating things. He's not afraid. He will give a character that you're supposed to like a very callous line. I can think of one in particular.
Which one?
was-
I know which one you're talking
Yes.
about. One of my favorite lines in the movie,
Well, yeah,
actually.
about mothers. Yeah,
Yes.
it's a-
Oh, yeah. Well,
and
say what it is.
It is. Oh, that's the trouble with mothers. First you get to like them, and then they die. And
I think it's hilarious.
it's a great line. But the thing is, most other directors would not have the guts to give that to a character that you're supposed to sympathize with.
Uh-huh. Yes.
And he's not doing it because he's just doing an easy shot. He knows that he can afford to do that.
Right.
That he can show characters. He can show characters and show that that's part of them too.
Well, can I say that's what I love about it is the fact that we do automatically love Kay Francis in this movie.
Yes.
We see her at the board meeting. We see she's the type of person we want to know. And then as it goes along, we realize that she's incredibly wealthy, incredibly sought after, has everything a person could possibly dream of. So we kind of forgive her that moment of snarkiness.
That moment and the fact that she has a great bitch scene with Miriam Hopkins.
Oh, I love that scene. Yeah. yeah.
which is a bitchy scene. So
But you don't dislike her.
no,
You
and
never
that's-
dislike her.
And that's the thing is, there's somebody wrote this about Shop Around the Corner, saying that the great thing about Lubitsch was that he would show the pettiness of people, and then he was talking about the wallet scene in Shop Around the Corner. About he still wants his wallet even though he's in love with her. He still wants the idea that it's not that these people get past their pettiness. They never do. Their pettiness is one of the things that makes them who they are, therefore wonderful.
more rounded, more
More
well-rounded characters.
So at the end, you know at the end of Shop Around the Corner that if Jimmy Stewart turned out to be bow-legged,
Right.
she would still be in love with him. But the fact that he's not is even better.
Right.
And she cares.
Yeah.
And she does care about that. It's not all important, and that's one of the great things about Lubitsch is that we still are ourselves, even if we become better selves.
Right.
We still want.
We're
we still
ourselves.
can-
You
we-
want that reality.
You want that reality.
Yeah,
That's
it's,
a great
it's
thing.
so well rounded.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's mine. I know we're to number one now, aren't we?
We're to number one.
And I think we just discussed yours.
Yeah, you did. 1932. My favorite
minute.
film was Trouble in Paradise. That's why we spent a long time on
That's,
it.
that's why I let you talk so much.
Okay, exactly.
On my dime.
On your time, yeah. My favorite film is Ernst Lubitsch's Trouble in Paradise.
Mm-hmm.
It's number 2 film, and it's a good film. Mm-hmm. So
Okay, moving
so up to
on.
number one.
Number one. I
Yeah.
actually have a tie.
Wait a minute. Okay.
I can't help it.
I guess we're
But
making those.
I want to
Okay.
preface this with the fact that next week I might have 5 completely different films. I'm not like Scott in the fact
Yeah.
that he's got his set list. For me, next week it could be a movie like Larceny Inc. It could be
Right.
It's a Wonderful Life. Whatever. But I have to say that lately I've been saying that the 2 greatest movies I think ever made were made in the 1970s. And that's The Godfather and The Godfather Part 2.
They're very good films.
I think they're the 2 best films ever made for my tastes. I think
They're not They're not on your list here for today, right?
yes, they are.
Oh, those are the
number
ones?
1. Yeah, number
Oh,
one.
okay,
They're tied.
because we didn't say classic film era films.
No,
okay.
we just said films.
So you didn't ask. You didn't let me guess.
I didn't, did I?
Yeah. Wait a minute. It's coming to me.
Oh, wait, hold on.
What's the year? What are the years? What are the years? What are the years?
What?
What are the years? Give me the years.
Oh, the years are 1972
All right.
and 1974.
Okay. Your 1974 choice is Murder on the Orient Express.
Yes.
And your 1972 film is The Conversation.
That's absolutely wrong.
Was I wrong about The Conversation? Was I wrong about the year even? I was wrong about the year. I do it.
You were wrong about everything.
I was wrong about everything.
In fact, who are you?
Godfather. Yeah.
No, The Godfather and Godfather Part 2, I think, are the most beautifully written, most beautifully played. Every character is indelible.
And they're your 2 favorite films. I mean, apart from you thinking the best films ever made, they're probably your 2 favorite
2
films.
favorites, yeah. They're also films that I can't turn on at any point and then turn off. I have to watch the rest of them.
That's because he's a Sicilian.
He's
This is
racist.
all about
Racist! Racist!
He's a Sicilian. What do you think?
He's a racist.
He knows that if he mentions them,
I know he's
he'll
a
get in
racist
good with the
because I met him at the Indy 500.
He'll get in good with the family if he mentions the,
I'll be
You know
a made
that,
man.
that was Mario Puzo Andretti.
Mario Puzo Andretti. That's good.
Lopez.
I love all 4. But anyway, so no, I do think maybe the most quotable movies of all time. Definitely indelible characters. The plot, well, based on the original book, which is one of the greats of the 20th century.
Which I've never read.
Do yourself a favor.
Okay.
I
got to see the films again
It just
too.
flies. It just
I got
flies.
to see the films again too because
Yeah.
I like the films. I'm that weird guy who enjoyed 1 more than 2.
Okay.
And most discerning people seem to think
They're both
that
equally.
that 2 is the more mature work and whatever, and the greater
Well,
work, the richer work. I don't know,
I like them evenly.
but one was just more fun for me, I guess.
It's a beautiful film. My
I
God.
didn't see them till very recently.
Really?
Very recently.
I'm surprised.
In the last year, I finally, whatever, and I enjoyed them. I enjoyed them both, but I think I need to see them. I need to see them with you.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
And there's different ways to see the film, and sometimes I recommend a great way to see both films in one sitting, and we're talking like
Wow.
almost 7 hours. It's like it's von Stroheim,
Yeah.
They have the chronological version that they showed on cable television.
Oh.
Starts with Robert De Niro in Sicily, or the little kid in Sicily,
Yeah.
young Corleone, and it ends where it should end, in Las Vegas in the late 50s.
Oh, wow.
So you've got the entire journey.
Does it work that way?
It's beautiful.
Okay.
It works just as well as watching the 2 of them.
Wow.
They did a beautiful job, and there's also scenes in the chronological version that aren't in the films themselves.
Yeah.
So-
I gotta check that. Something.
I've got it if you want to borrow.
Interesting. Yeah, I think I will. Of course, I didn't get back his His DVD is Abbott Costello DVD.
I don't. This hurts too much. I don't want to talk about it now. It
I
hurts
don't
too
know what
much.
happened to it.
What happened to
I
it?
don't know what happened to
I
it.
loaned him. I have the Abbott and Costello Universal Collection that comes in like the cardboard trunk, you know. And my buddy Scott here is a huge fan of Claire Dodd, and I can understand why. And she made a movie with Abbott and Costello called In the Navy, which is one of my top 5. And I loaned it to Scott, a couple of years ago, a year ago? I forget.
A couple years ago, I think.
And he lost it. So I am without...
That said,
4 movies.
We've loaned each other many things before,
Yes.
and we've never lost
Never.
anything.
And
I
that's why I loaned it
I do
to
have
you.
your Danny Kaye book. I still have it, but it's not lost.
Okay, great. I was looking for it the other day,
Oh, really?
actually. Yeah,
okay, I have it.
Since I started watching his television show.
Oh,
on,
yes.
Yeah. They're showing them lately, and they're wonderful.
I think I should mention that my top films are my top films are, I think, great films, and because of that, films that are lesser films make it into between
Like Saul Lesser?
Saul Lesser. No, it's films that are B films, which I absolutely adore, don't have enough ammunition to make it that high on my list.
Right.
So they're really amazing for what they are, and they really are enjoyable. But the thing
Gotcha.
is, if we were to go to a list of it would probably be a more interesting list, 20 to 30 or 15 to 25.
Right.
Because then we'd have Case of the Curious Bride.
Well, I was going to say, there were times when rather than watch Citizen Kane, I would rather watch Dick Tracy Meets Gruesome.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, but to list that next to, those movies seems a little absurd. But I do enjoy them just as much as the great classic,
I
films
agree.
with the reputation.
And somehow one of them made it onto my list this time at number 5. Kendall Murder Case actually probably qualifies. I don't mean of being a B movie, but being
it's close.
The film that you don't put up there and
revere
on that level.
Yeah. But if I were to do that, I mean, I would have to mention again. I'm bringing it up. Larceny Inc. is one of my favorite movies. B movies. I love old Dick Foran westerns. Those kind of things.
I don't think I've ever seen any.
You never saw Dick Foran?
I've seen Boy Meets Girl.
Do you know who his horse is?
No.
Trigger.
Really?
Yeah.
How could that happen?
Trigger was in the business long before Roy Rogers.
Wow.
Yeah, he's Robin Hood steed in Adventures of Robin Hood.
Did not know this.
Yeah. Trigger's a big star.
Yeah.
I don't think his name was Trigger, but
well,
Roy Rogers.
Asta was Skippy. So
that's right. That's right. Yeah.
But I think that I think that
they turned Asta into peanut butter.
It's amazing.
Jeez, that's horrible.
You're still chunky though.
And had quite a spread. But it's these crazy kids.
I was so worried about saying that in front of you.
In front of me, of all people.
Major animal lover who's just
That's my military rank.
Major
animal lover. Now let us out.
No, but I think that in both our cases, I think we do have a. I think our lists were still a little quirky there, because our lists were not exactly just saying. Although Casablanca made it to my list, it was not just what's it? Citizen Kane, Gone with the Wind, and all that. Stagecoach. It wasn't in the, and not that these are bad films at all, but at the same time, there weren't a lot of those, and yet there wasn't 5 Came Back, or which I love.
Do you prefer 5 Came Back to the remake, Back to Eternity? Me too.
Yeah.
Although I have friends that think the exact opposite.
They're wrong. No, I'm kidding.
Gene Barry.
Yeah, you know what? Let's put it this way. Oh, this man looks like Gene Barry, by the way. So that's why. So it's amazing that he likes the earlier one. No, the first one I see Aubrey Smith, and that's 10 points to any film.
Yeah, that's true.
He shows up on in a lot of my favorite films. I can't say I like a film more because. No, I can.
Yeah,
I can say that.
can.
It gives it a couple extra points. It's not enough to make a film that I don't like a film I like.
Forgivable.
But at the same time,
he's one of those guys. Yeah,
Clooney Brown. I mean, he's in for 2 minutes, and it's just like, oh wow, he's here too.
And it's a breath of fresh air.
It's a breath of fresh air.
No.
Same thing I feel about Robert Benchley being in Piccadilly Jim.
Right.
And he
or
doesn't even have
Foreign Correspondent.
Or in Foreign Correspondent. It's just. It's so nice to have them there.
Yeah.
And that's the way. But it doesn't change it. If it's not the kind of film you like.
I do have a theory, though, that for me, if there's a fake gorilla in a movie, like, Charlie Gomorrah or Ray Corrigan, if there's a fake gorilla in a movie, it adds another star to it immediately.
Really?
Yep. I love movies with gorillas.
Didn't do it for me for At the Circus. I'll tell you that much.
Oh, I like At
and
the
didn't
Circus.
do it for
I don't
me
love
for
it, but I like
didn't
it.
do it for me for Charlie Chan.
No?
At the Circus.
Oh, I think that was Charlie and Gomorrah.
Really?
Yeah. Who was quite an artist, by the way, sculptor.
How about House of Mystery? Do you know that film?
Yeah,
1934?
oh sure, yeah.
Is that I don't know
That's
who
Frank
that is.
Strayer, isn't it? Director.
Frank, I think so. It was
Yeah.
Verna Hilly, my friend Verna Hilly.
Yeah, Verna. Mhm.
Was in that.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think what other films have the fake.
Verna
gorilla.
Hilly was Trentino's secretary in Duck Soup.
Absolutely.
Ciccolini and Pinky are here to see you, sir.
Your Verna Hilly's better than your Chico.
Hey, that's a Verna Hilly. I want to climb that hilly.
Verna,
And he
I'm
would have.
so-
And he
Verna,
would have.
Verna, I'm sorry. He probably did, but Verna, I'm sorry. She never mentioned that to me, but
I'm sure. Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I think that was to me that was kind of illuminating and kind of fun.
Yeah, it
and
was fun.
interesting because as I say,
I hope the audience out there finds our conversations as interesting and as enjoyable as we do.
though we seriously doubt it.
Yeah, we doubt it. We doubt it. I have a feeling right now somebody's like chewing on a napkin, just like trying to stay awake. Look at Gabby. Gabby's the indication.
Gabby's
let's
totally
put the
gone.
microphone near her nose. Hold on. Oh, she's such a stooge. Oh, there she is. She's stretching. Hiya, sweetie. Her eyes are open.
Hi.
And it's now that we're ending.
Yeah. Well, we want to thank you all,
Thank you for listening.
and we'll be back, and maybe not as long-winded. Who knows?
You know what? I decided that it's not going to be an hour-long broadcast or two-hour podcast. It's going to be when we get done talking.
That's right.
Okay? Or finish talking. I tried to say both at the same time.
Well, we get done finished talking.
when we get done finished talking,
we'll be done.
Oh yeah, man. All right. So yeah, right. Old movies matter. So all right. So speaking for Scott Ratner,
And for Nick Santa Maria,
thanks for listening.
that's we were the other ones.
That's
we
right.
fooled you there.
We fooled you. Yeah.
We fooled you good, eh, boss?
Hey, we fool you good. And on that note, have a good one, gang. Let us know what you think. Write in to my Facebook page or Scott's Facebook page and let us know if you've enjoyed this, and we'll continue. Right?
Yeah.
And that's no idle threat.
Thanks a lot.
Take care.